Today I want to talk about two key principles that's crucial to understand when looking at investing in property. They are gross returns versus net returns, and how you can work out these two so that when you're comparing different properties, you can break them down and really compare apples to apples rather than apples to bananas. So to jump into it, gross returns is probably the most common metric out there when you're looking at suburb reports, looking at where people are talking about rental returns. Pretty much always they're referring to gross rental returns. So what is the gross rental return? Put simply, it's the annual rent for that property divided by the purchase price. So quite often when you're looking at suburb reports, they'll look at the median rental price and divide that by the median purchase price for that suburb, and that will give you a percentage return. Quite often you'll see gross rental returns sitting in the range of anywhere from 4% up to 10% for units in certain areas. Now, while this measurement is a very handy tool when you're first doing your research and first trying to pick out those suburbs that are offering high returns, past that point, the metric is pretty much useless. It doesn't take into account the cost associated with each property, and therefore can really muddy the waters when you're looking at maybe a unit versus a house, or one unit complex to the next unit complex, or even like a run-down property that might be selling cheap versus a renovated property that doesn't need the maintenance put into it. It really is hard to use that metric for anything actually measurable when you're looking at specific properties, but like I say, it's a really good starting point when you're looking at a very wide suburb basis or a regional basis. Now, the net return is the second metric that I want to talk about, and the net return is something that personally I really focus on when looking at investment properties, especially when I'm looking at properties for their cash return and cash flow positive properties. Now, the net return is the annual rent that property will collect minus the outgoings, so things like your council rates, your water bill, if there's body corporate fees associated with that property, what your insurance is going to cost in that area. Obviously, certain areas are going to have more expensive insurance than others, so taking those factors into consideration, those total costs, minusing them from the annual rent, and then dividing it by the purchase price that you can pick up that property. Now, the reason the net return isn't promoted in when you're looking at suburb reports for different areas is because it is very property specific. You might have insurance at $1,000 for one property, and then on the other side of the street, the insurance might double for one reason or another, or it might be just the cost of the building. So the cost of the building might be considerably more, so your insurance might go up. So it's basically a metric that can't be used in a broad scale, but the net return is crucial to working out exactly what percentage return you are getting on a property. Obviously, in the low interest rates environment that we're in at the moment, if you've got a property that after all costs is netting over sort of 4%, that property is going to be cash flow positive if you're borrowing under 4%. So this is where the net return really can help you work out one property to the next, and it can help you work out across price points as well. Now, to give this some sort of context and sort of a real life example, people often look at the really cheap unit, so say a $100,000 unit that's returning $200 a week. Now, if you did the sums on this, that would work out as a 10% gross return. At first glance, this looks like a fantastic return and something that may be heavily positively geared. But the reality is, on a cheaper property, even though the rent is a high percentage, very quickly that rent gets reduced when you start adding things in like council rates, body corporate fees, the water bills at the property, and maintenance items, and you might find what starts out as a real pretty picture and a 10% gross return might only end up as a 2.5% or a 3% net return. So that's where it's really easy to fall into the trap of being attracted to a really high gross yield and not actually doing the sums all the way through and working out what the net return is for that property. So I hope this is of help, and I hope next time you're out looking at properties and considering buying your next investment, that you can do the sums and work out what the net return is, and that will help you compare one property through to the next. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and if you have enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We do put out a heap of content on here and love bringing you new videos.